Welcome back to yet another episode of In My Humble Potato Opinion. Um, I like doing these, so I'm gonna keep doing them. They're fun. But today's topic, Destiny 2. And, why I don't really like it that much, all things considered. Like I know there's the big fan base. There is a huge fan base for Destiny 2, right? Like always has been, probably will be for a long time. And I know I'm probably gonna make a couple of them mad, but oh well, don't care. But see, look, Destiny 2, it has this. It's, I mean, it's a solid game. I will say that, like, it's a solid game in the way that, like, Pac-Man is a solid game. If you catch my meaning. It's like, it has gameplay, and it is a game, undoubtedly. But it's just, it lacks everything else that we have come to expect from games these days. And if I had to put it into one singular word, I'd say that it lacks personality. Let's say that's the simplest way I can think of to talk about it. Is that there's doesn't seem to be anything about it that's like unique at all. Everything is super cut and dry, like this is that, and that's how everything is. There's no personality, there's no quirks, there's no anything special. And that kind of makes me sad a little bit, because I've played it, like I beat the whole main story and then uninstalled it. I didn't pay for it though, so it's fine. But because it's complicated, but and I just didn't enjoy most of it, because there was no, like, once you got bored of the game, of its game components, then the rest of it wasn't enough to keep you there. So I'm trying to get at, I guess. There wasn't enough gameplay to support interest for me, because there wasn't like any big lore secrets, characters I cared about enough to go find and do things for. Everything was just flat and like dull and overall pretty boring. And so, which is kind of disappointing, given like how much like it was expected from it, given the I'm gonna call it a flop, but it's whatever, because in my opinion Destiny 1 was a flop, because it built itself to be like the new big thing, and then it kind of was, and then a select group of people religiously played it, but otherwise it just fell to the wayside. And so like it built, like, it proved a concept that like that kind of game had a market and that people would play it, but they just didn't execute it properly enough for the game to have any kind of longevity. It's like, I don't know the stats, but I imagine the number of people who downloaded or this wasn't the Taken King, it's with the wolves and the mountain, I don't even remember what it was called. It's like Iron or something, Rise of Iron, yeah. And that number of people compared to who bought the game and then who played Rise of Iron is probably a very small percentage. Like, I mean, I'm not going to give any definitives, but it seems like a given, because it just, I don't know what was, like, it's not like there was anything particularly wrong with it. Like, as I said, it's a solid game. Like, both games are rock solid as games, but not much more than that. So, like, unless you really like simple, self-explanatory games like Pac-Man, as I've been saying, it's But going back, it's because I may not have, I didn't play the first Destiny. I will openly admit that. I never, then again, I never really had any real desire to. But I did play the second one, and I did watch a lot of the first one because there was a lot of the YouTubers I liked that played a lot of it, and so I was just watching. I mean, I became involved as a side effect, you could say. So, like, I've seen a lot of the first game. So, and then to play the second game and have almost nothing be different is kind of a letdown. It's like, because it's like, I didn't even realize this, but I found out later that they didn't even add any subclasses from the original 9, which is like, okay. And all the fanatics are going on about it. It's like, oh, they didn't want to change it too much because people wouldn't want to play it, and I'm like, that's stupid. The whole point of the sequel is that you add more content on top of what is already there, or you upgrade the original content to the point that people are like, hey, I'd rather have this. You don't keep the same things with like minor tweaks and buffs and changes and call it a sequel. And this is gonna sound really nitpicky because it kind of is, but there's one thing that if a game can get right, then it just makes it like that much more enjoyable for me as a game as a whole. And as I said, it's gonna sound nitpicky, but like, if you're like me, then you'll understand. I guess I can spread the category out to just animations in general, like particularly reload animations, because in first-person shooters, those are the ones you see most often. But it can extend to just animations in general. And the thing about Destiny is, and this is probably like my single biggest kind of stupid complaint, is that every single, like, there's the, like, how many are there? Like 9 different weapon types in total, all things considered, because you have like the auto rifles, the pulse rifles, the scout rifles, the hand cannons, the handguns, the rocket launchers, the snipers, the shotguns, the fusion rifles, and there's the grenade launchers now that they added. They added one new weapon class in the new game, which is like, okay. But with minor, like, because there's like the break action, single action, or single fire grenade launchers, and then the drum grenade launchers. But otherwise, for every weapon class, there is one reload animation, and that is it. So every rocket launcher has the same animation for the reload. Every pulse rifle has the same animation. Every scout rifle has the same animation. Every handgun, every hand cannon. Well, I guess depending on the hand cannon, there's 2 reloads for hand cannons, but they're different kinds of hand cannons. But for the most part, for all the primary weapons you use more often than anything else, is the reload animations are all identical. And so what ends up happening is, you may have some like cool, unique exotic that you're like, oh wow, this gun's got a lot of personality. And then it reloads the exact same way as any other gun, and then you feel like it's lessened. Like the effect is considerably cheapened and less valuable because of it. Because like I remember I got my first exotic pulse rifle, the black hole gun thing, like the dubstep gun or whatever they want to call it, during the main mission. And I was like, oh, this thing looks pretty neato. But then all the animations are carbon copied from every other pulse rifle, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, even little effects or something, like, I don't know, anything would have been nice. But nope, it was just the same standard reload, and I was a little bit sad. Whereas games like Borderlands, even because because every weapon company has its own reload animations. Like there's like the semi-auto Jacob sniper, and then there's always and then the bolt action one have 2 separate reloads. There's just more variety and there's more personality. And like melee, like, you feel more attached to a character if like you can see things about them. Like Axton's base melee, he just swings a hatchet, which is a lot more interesting than a punch or just a knife or whatever. And then like Zero has his sword and Maya has her thing, and then Salvador has his friggin' brass knuckles. But and I don't know, it's a little bit much. But reload animation specifically, like there's Borderlands, like for as million guns as it has, it still manages to have at least slightly varying reloads for every type. Because there's like, for revolvers alone, I know, like this one, it's just the flick, the speed loader, and then the flick it closed, whereas some of them, like, you flick it open, you load it, and then you spin the thing, you close it. Then there's ones where you flick it out, you load it, you flick it back, and you cock the hammer back again. And that's just for revolvers alone. And then for every other weapon class, there's heaven knows how many different little variations and changes and unique things about each gun. That's the other thing, is 90% of the guns, okay, well, if you play the game long enough, then they start getting a little bit repetitive occasionally. But for the most part, like the skins, the colors, the mix and match thing they have going for all the components, make the guns feel unique, especially with like legendary effects and stuff. Like legendaries, like in Borderlands 2, are far surpass most exotics, or almost all exotics probably. Like the one that was just on the loading screen, I think that's the Lead Storm. I'm not sure though. If it is the Lead Storm or it's either it's the Hail. No, the Hot Hail, it's totally different. That's a different gun. There's the Lead Storm, and there's another one that's just like it, but it slightly has like a different legendary effect. But like it's an interesting gun because it shoots. It literally has. It's like, if you know about the Hail, it's the kind of got the same thing as the Hail, and then it shoots like in a huge arc. And it shoots, and then those arcs can split into more shots and stuff, and it's super unique. And then like even the non-uniques, like the E-Tech stuff, like this isn't even a legendary gun. This is just a type of weapon you can find. And neither is this. You don't even have to be legendary. It just has to be unique. The Sandhawk, like look at that. That's way cooler than anything in Destiny, except maybe the coil. But that's the point. Yeah, now I'm talking about how much I like Borderlands 2. Just Destiny 2, it just wasn't my kind of game, I guess you could say. Which, like when I tell other people about that, they're kind of like, what? It's like Borderlands 2, and you love Borderlands 2. And I'm like, yeah, I like Borderlands 2 because Borderlands 2 has personality. Like, it is, like, Borderlands 2 is probably one of the most personality-filled games ever created, besides like the Stanley Parable, which is specifically like not even about personalities. But it's just, Destiny feels like it could have been a lot more than it is, and you can feel it. Like there's so much potential for it, but all the potential just goes somewhere, and you don't know where, and it just leaves a hollow feeling in your soul. And so it just ends up being a huge disappointment at the end of the day. And that's I don't know, that's just what I think about it, I guess. Because especially like here's the thing, because if you know this channel at all, which you probably do, I am like a religious almost fan of Warframe at this point, right? And so all the comparisons that can be drawn between the games, some of them are valid, some of them are a bit stupid, but I adore Warframe to like as I said, almost religious levels. It's ludicrous how much I like that game. and it's completely viable to say that they are, at their core, kind of semi-similar games, and yet I like, I'm not gonna say I hate it, because it's not like it's a terrible game. Like, I'm not saying it's like was created terribly, or it was like the devs should hang themselves or anything. No, it's a solid game underneath all the disappointment of what it could have and should have been.
That's amazing.
Um, but it that Warframe, if it has is all like, if you play it, like, the thing about Warframe is that it lets you put your personality into the game, and that's something like that that Destiny just doesn't have at all, because first, like, your character never in Destiny, your Guardian never gets to actually talk. Everyone sounds exactly the same in the cutscenes, because your ghost always just talks for you. And like, there's like, there's not even like face customization for like cutscenes and stuff. Like, there's like 6, 8 like base faces for each race, and you just have to pick from one of them, and then like put some tattoos and a hairstyle on it, and that's it. That's as far as it goes. There's nothing new. There's no anything. And then the shaders thing is ludicrous, if you ask me. Like, that is probably one of the, like, just overall dumbest decisions for a game, even like remotely similar to what the Destiny experience is. Like, serious. The shaders was just a bad idea from the start. Like, not even gonna lie. Because one-time use customization, like, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you, who thought this was a good idea? Whereas, and then Warframe is just leagues ahead in personal customization capabilities and the like. And there's another feature that could have been really neato, and that I've only seen one game do so far, that I wish more games had now that I know that it's even an option, is that if you don't play Neo, or you haven't seen it that much, which you admittedly probably haven't, it's kind of a little cult classic game at this point. Neo has this feature called the Refashion thing, where you can go to the blacksmith and for pretty, it's not like a terrible amount of money. Like, you don't have much else to spend for the game, because like buying gear is pointless, and all you need coin. Like, you don't even need that much money to do any of the like upgrading and whatever. But you have an option to refashion. And what that lets you do is, any item you've picked up before of the same type. So like, say you pick up this neato looking helmet that you really like the look of, but it's got like the worst stats on the planet. You can go take your really good ugly helmet. If you don't like the way your really good helmet looks, you can use the refashion feature to make the helmet look like the helmet you like what it looks like. So you can have the really high stat good helmet, but you can make it look like the helmet you really like. And if Destiny had something like this, like, you could find the best like exotic armor, but then you could but you really like the look of a different set of exotics, but the other exotics you just don't have a better version of the exotics you like, you can always just make it look like the exotics you do like, which would be super neato. And Warframe doesn't, like, because the thing about Warframe though is that it doesn't need it, because it has so many options. Like, because basically it is very hard to make something in Warframe that looks just absolutely like, why would you even do that? Because between all the skins and all the color schemes and all the attachments and all Syndonas and capes and armors and things you can stick on a Warframe, there's literally zero chance you will ever find something that you can't make look the way you want to. And then, but just Destiny doesn't have any of that. it just doesn't have enough customization. It doesn't have. I've been saying it over and over. There's no personality. I mean, there's some personality, but it's like hidden in the grimoire. That's the other thing. Grimoires are stupid. And like, hey, let's have a codec, but let's not put it in the game. Like, no, stop. Who's decided this was a good idea? That's the other thing. There's so many features are just kind of confusing, or lack of features is confusing. Like the no more subclasses is confusing. The shaders are confusing. It just baffles me, in all honesty, that it could, like, so much effort could be put into a game and then have it fall so flat in, like, the, like, human aspects. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I came close. I think it's going away now. Oof. Yeah, but it's almost amazing how little they humanize it. Like, there's none of the characters are particularly interesting. Like, you find yourself just not caring. Like, the only reason you want to get Cade back is so he can make a good joke every now and again. Especially the chicken. That was good. But it just always gets me the most is the reload animations being just the same forever. And it's that's what it is. At the end of the day, it's just more of the same. It's like it's not Destiny 2.0 because that's still Destiny 2, but it's more like what do you call it? A reboot? It feels more like a reboot than a sequel is. Like, I guess the best way to say it is that there's nothing really new. It's just kind of slightly different and prettier looking. That's the other thing, is that it doesn't even have that over Warframe. It's because Warframe is probably, honestly, prettier to look at, especially on PS4. But yeah, it doesn't feel like a sequel. Like, calling it a sequel feels like giving it way more credit than it should have, because it's just lacking in all of the parts that make a game great. Because, like, anybody, like, you can make a good, solid game. Anybody could. Like, indie games and things and whatnot that are all really good games. But then, I don't know about you, but there are probably very, very few people on this planet who could play Pac-Man for the same amount of time as they'd play Skyrim. Because Pac-Man is, like, it predates, like, it doesn't even actually, really. Because you can tell stories, like, there have been, I'm trying to think, I can't think of anything, but it's not like storytelling should be as hard as they seem. Like, I don't know, there has to be more than just the game, than gameplay, because at the moment that's all Destiny really has. There's no investment in anything, there's no end goal, there's no real, you don't feel like there's a reason behind anything. The freaking house is full of people who just don't know how anything works and they just like to scream. It's terribly annoying. But yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's, I guess, what it comes down to, is that there's no reason to keep playing Destiny 2 or Destiny even. On the topic, it's still basically the same game. Done. Yeah, that's my humble potato opinion on Destiny 2 as it stands. I don't know. Also, I forgot to mention this previously in the other 2 episodes, is that if somehow you have found your way to this video through the dark canals and underbelly of YouTube, and you're bored and you have literally nothing better to do with your life, you can always leave a comment on a topic or a subject you want me to talk about. Give my humble opinion on. It's whatever. If it's anything I know anything about, I might talk about it. If it's something I literally have zero experience in, or a game I haven't even played or watched any of, then I probably won't do anything. I'll just keep doing things I want to talk about. But if you guys want to see anything, listen to me yammer about anything, and just let me know. I might do some research if I think it's an interesting topic, but no guarantees. Yeah, but that's in my humble potato opinion, number 3 of probably too many. 3, it's 3 too many already. Just vomit on his sweater already, Mom. Spaghetti. $14. Yeah. Farewell, moin Freunds.